Hello and welcome to another episode of Maths with Mrs. Banks, where we make maths fun and easy to learn. And in this video, I'm going to show mathematics grade 8 learners how to work with numbers, finding the lowest common multiple, the highest common factor, converting from scientific notation to ordinary notation, vice versa, all those type of questions. Now let's start. First of all, they say the lowest common multiple of 168 and 240 is, that's what you need to do. So what we do is we write 168 on one side and the other one on the other side, and then we find a factor tree of it. You can use a tree or you can use a table, it's up to you. I prefer a tree, that's what I know how to use. So what you do is you take out a calculator. If your multiplication is not so strong, you go 168 divided by 2, and that will give you 84. So that will be 2 on one branch and 84 in the other. 2, 84. Now you do the same for 84. You divide that by 2. That will give you 2 and 42. Same story for 42 until you get to a point where you've exhausted all these factors. So that's 2 and 21. And the last one is 21. 21 is 7 times 3, so that will be 3 and 7. These are your factors. Now for 240 you can do exactly the same thing. Now we're gonna use a table for this one so you can see you do it exactly the same way. So we're gonna use a table here. We start with 240, divide that by 2. Okay, good. 240 in your calculator divided by 2, that gives us 120. So we'll put 2 here and then 120 over there. Same story, divide that by 2. That will give you 60. Same story, divide the 60 by 2. That will give you 30. Divide 30 by 2. That will give you 15. Now 15 you cannot divide by 2, but you can divide by 5 or 3. 15 divided by 5, and that will give you 3. So 15 divided by 3 is 5. 5 cannot be divided any further. You can divide it by 5, it will give you 1. Alright, that's how it works. So here are your factors, 2 all the way to 5. So here is how we list the factors. So what we do is we list these factors. We go 2 times 2 times 2 times 3 times 7. So that will be 2 times 2 times 2 times 3 times 7. Alright. And then now we list 4 240. It's 4 2s, 1 3 and a 5. 4 2s, so that will be 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. A 3 and a 5. A 3 and a 5. So now what we do is we put a circle or a square around all those that are common, the factors that are common. Here we go. So the factors that are common, let's make that red. Now this is how you then figure out what the lowest common multiple is. Now look at these ones that are common. You only use one set. So the lowest common multiple will be equals to 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 3. 1 2 3 times 3, and then the rest of the numbers we include in calculation of the lowest common multiple, and that will give us this number. Take out a calculator. We go 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, so it's 4 2s times 3 times 5 times 7, and that answer gives us 1680, 1680. That is the lowest common multiple, and that gives us the answer is D. And that's how you find the lowest common multiple between two numbers. Next question. Given 10, 45, and 75, determine the following without using a calculator. I'm not going to use a calculator. If you do use a calculator, it's to figure out what the factors are. So the lowest common factor and the highest common factor. All right, the lowest common multiple, sorry, and the highest common factor. Now let's find the factor 3, 4, 10. It will be 2 and 5. And then 4, 45, it will be, okay, 45 divided by 5, that will be 9 and 7. 9 and 5. 5 times 9. 9 can be divided into 3 and 3. So here are the factors of that. Now the factors of 75 divided by 5, that is 5 times 15. 15 can be divided further into 3 and 5. So now we'll line them factors up. So let's line them up. I'm gonna start with the 10 one, then the 45, and then the 75. So the 10 is 2 times 5. And then for this one, 3 times 3 times 5. 2 times 5. So that will be 3 times 3 times 5 for 45. 3 times 3 times 5. Notice I'm trying to make sure that I align them together so it's easier for me to work with the common factor. 3 times 5 times 5. So that will be 3 times 5 times 5. And now we circle out the common factor. It must be common for all three. Because here the 5 is common for all three. That is the only one that is common for all three. So we're gonna put a mark around that. So that common one we do not repeat. So to find the lowest common multiple, that will be 2 times 3 times 3 times 5 times 5. So the lowest common multiple will be 2 times 3 times 3 times 5 times 5. So that helps us figure out what numbers not to repeat. So that's 2 times 3 times 3 times 5 times 5, and that gives us 450. 450 is the lowest common multiple. Now the highest common factor is a factor that is common to all three, but the biggest that is common. I see 3. All right, 2 is not common to all. 3 is not common to all either, because it's only a factor for 75 and 45, not for 10. But 5 is common to all three. So 5, because it's the only one that's common to all three, it will also be the highest common factor. So let's put a ring around that. We're going to use a green one. So that is 5, meaning that the highest common factor will be 5. The highest common factor is 5. And that's how you find the highest common factor. Next question. The simplest form of the ratio 0,15 to 0,2. So what you do is you express all of those in terms of numbers. So that will be 15 over 1 and 2 zeros. Why? Because we've got 2 decimals after a comma, 1, 2. That's 15 over 100, and the other one, 0,2, will be 0,2 is equals to 2 over 1 and 1 0, because it is 1 decimal after a comma. But we need to have them both be out of 100. So what we do with this one is we simply multiply. To take the 100 from 10 from 10 to 100, we multiply by 10. What we do to the bottom must also do to the top. So that will also be equals to 20 over 100. You can even take your calculator and just confirm that. It will give you the same answer. So 0,5 is 15 over 100, and 20 over 0,12 is 20 over 100. So now what we do is we go 15 over 100 is 2. 15 over 100 is 220 over 100. Now to find the ratio, all we need to do now is we cancel out anything that is common. The hundreds are common. Let's just cancel them. So that will give us 15 is to 20. And the answer that matches with this is number B. And that's how you find that. Next question. Number 8, the answer to 3 plus 5 times 4 is, so this is how we calculate this. That will be equals to 3 plus, using the rule of Bodmer's, which is the rule that we must use whenever we're multiplying all types of different operations, is that we must start with what is multiplied first. Work out what's multiplied first before we add. That's what Bodmer says. So let's work out the multiplication. 5 times 4 is 20. Now we can add 3 times 20 is 23. And that is the answer. According to this, the option that is correct is number B. Next question, simplify 3 squared plus 17 all to the power of 0 minus square root of 49. Now that, remember the rule of Bodmer's, we must start with what's inside brackets. This is also inside brackets. That can also be considered as off or inside brackets. That's okay. So now let's start. 3 squared is 9. 3 squared is 3 times 3. Now we multiply 3 twice by itself twice, because the exponent, the power, the exponent, the index tells us we must do so twice. So 3 times 3 plus 17 to the power of 0, don't know, I'm gonna show you how, minus the square root of 49. All right, 3 times 3 is 9, plus any number to the power of 0 is 1, minus the square root of 49 is simply 7. Why? Because 7 times 7 is equals to 49. So the square root of 49 will be 7, because 7 squared is 49. Now we add. Remember the rule of Bodmer's, we must add before we subtract. So let's add first. 9 plus 1, that gives us 10. Minus 7. Now we can subtract. 10 minus 7 is 3. And the correct answer is the option A. Next question. Simplify negative 2 plus negative in brackets 2 plus. Okay, so that is equals to negative 2 plus negative is negative, minus a negative is plus, minus positive is negative. So that will give us, now we add, okay, negative and negative and negative, let's add them together. 2 plus 2 is 4 plus 3 is 7, so that will be negative 7 plus 4. Now negative 7 plus 4 will be negative. It's like you're going 7 minus 4, that will give us 3, but because this is bigger than that, the answer will be, instead of positive 3, it will be negative 3. And that's how you add integers. Next, we've got the square root of 100 minus 36. So that will be square root of, let's work out what's inside the bracket or the square root sign. So that will be 100 minus 36. That gives us 64. So that is the square root of 64 minus the cube root of 64. Now the square root of 64 is simply 8, because 8 squared or 8 times 8 equals to 64. You need to know your times table, your squares and the square roots and the cubes and the cube roots. Now this cube root of 64 is simply 4, because 4 to the power of 3, or 4 times 4 is equal to 64. So the cube root of 64 is 4. That is equals to 64. Therefore, the cube root of 64 is equals to 4. That's how you work that one out. So 8 minus 4, according to the rules of Bodmer's, remember the rules of Bodmer's? The rules of Bodmer's say we must do all the offs, brackets and everything before we subtract. Now we can subtract, because we've worked out whatever was in the square root signs. Now we can subtract. 8 minus 4 equals to 4, and that's your answer. Next question, we're simplifying again. So that will be negative 6 plus the square root of 4 is 2, because 2 times 2 is equals to 4. Therefore, the square root of 4 is equals to 2. Remember, we're still using the same rule of BODMAS. Don't forget that. Now, let's go back. So, that will be 2 times, negative 2 times. And then we've got 12 minus 9 divided by 3. According to the rule of BODMAS, it says we must divide before multiply, add, or subtract. So let's divide before we subtract. So that will be 12 minus 9 divided by 3 is 3, because 3 times 3 is 9. Minus negative is plus, so that will be plus 5. Now that will give us negative 6 plus 2 times 12 minus 3 is 9. So that's 12 times 9 plus 5. We must multiply before we add or subtract. So let's multiply according to BODMAS. Minus 6 plus 12 times 2 times 9 is 18 plus 5. Now we can add before we subtract. So let's add 18 plus 5 is equal to, that gives us 23. Now, negative 6 plus 23 is the same as 23 minus 6. And that gives us what? It gives us 17. And that's our answer. Next question. Negative minus negative, that is positive. So that will be positive 2 plus square root of negative 2 all squared is the same as negative 2 times negative 2, which is equals to negative times negative is positive. 2 times 2 is equals to 4. So that gives us positive 4. So that is the square root of positive 4. Minus times minus is positive, so that will be plus. 4 times 1 times 3. 4 times 1 is 4. 4 times 3 is 12. So that will be 4 plus 12 all over 2 times negative 1. Positive times negative. Positive times negative is negative. So that will be negative 2 times 1 is 2. So that will be negative 2 equals to 2 plus the square root of 4 plus 12 is 16. All over negative 2. Now 2 plus square root of 16. Square root of 16 is equals to 4. 2 plus 4, because 4 times 4 is 16 minus 2, which is equals to 2 plus 4 is 6. 6 over negative 2. Positive divided by negative is negative. And then 6 divided by 2 is 3. So the answer is negative 3. And that's how you get the answer there. Next question. 0 over negative 12. Anything that is divided, 0 divided by anything will always give you 0. So the correct answer is option A. If it was anything divided by 0, then it will be undefined. But 0 divided by anything is simply 0. Now for the last question. Write 8,002 times 10 to the power 4 in ordinary form. This is how you do it. You go, take your comma from here, and you must take it 4 steps to the right, because it is to the power of 4. Positive 4, so that will be 1, 2, 3, 4, meaning the answer will be 8,002 and another 0, which gives us 80,020. That's how you write that in ordinary form. Now write this in scientific notation. Alright, when we write in scientific notation, we must make sure that the comma is 1 step after the first digit on the left hand side. So taking it from here all the way to there, that will take us how many steps? 1, 2, 3. So that will give us 7,645 times 10 to the power of 3, because we took it 3 steps to the left. And that's how you solve scientific notation. Thank you so much for watching this video. We'll come to the end of the video. I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.